Hello, I'd like to welcome you to the eGrants Drug and Alcohol Program. This is a tutorial on how to create and complete the Drug and Alcohol Monitoring Form in eGrants. My name is Becky Ligon, and I'm going to be taking you through today's presentation. The presentation will be provided into two parts: how to create the monitoring form and how to complete the monitoring form. Part 1, how to create the monitoring form in eGrants. You need to start at the Service Profile tab. Click on it, and this will bring up the Service Profile Search tab. From the organization listing, choose the applicable subrecipient. Make sure you export your results to the screen and click on Execute. This will bring up a table below, which are the results. You will see the organization name for which you chose to make the form, the service profile associated name. Make sure that your current status is Administrative Requirements in Progress. Once you click on the web link, this will take you to a subsequent page. You're going to need to hover your mouse over Related Documents and Messages. This will bring up a pop-up box. From the listing, choose Initiate a Drug and Alcohol Program Monitoring. This will bring up a subsequent page, the Document menu. You have various listings. Choose View, Edit, and Complete Forms and click on the View Forms tab. This will bring up a subsequent page, PTN Administrative Requirements Menu-Forms. Click on the web link to access the document. Now you've completed the process for creating the Drug and Alcohol Monitoring Form. Now we're going to look at how to complete the form. Let's say that you went to lunch and you came back and you needed to find where the form was located. You would go to the Monitoring tab, and this will take you to the Monitoring webpage. From the Monitoring Types drop-down menu, choose Drug and Alcohol Program Monitoring 2019. For the status, verify that the document is in Administrative Requirements in Progress. In progress means that you can enter data into the form. Make sure you export your results to the screen and click on the Search button. This will bring up a table below. You will see document type, organization, the document name, the status, and the year. Verify the status is in progress and click on the web link. This will bring up a subsequent web page, the Document menu. From the choices, choose View, Edit, and Complete Forms and click on the View Forms tab. This will bring up the PTN Administrative Requirements Menu-Form web page. From the listing provided in the table below, under Page Name, click on Drug and Alcohol Program Monitoring, PTN 102. Now we're on the Drug and Alcohol Program Monitoring page for which you will enter the data. Please note, questions 1 through 10 and number 16 are applicable if the PTC and the PTN Drug and Alcohol Program Manager conducted the monitoring. Questions 1, 2, 4, and 11 through 16 are applicable if the vendor conducted the monitoring. So let's take a look at our questions. We have the date of the monitoring visit, who conducted the monitoring, the vendor or PTN. If it was the PTC PTN, you would choose the PTC name from the drop-down menu and choose the project manager. You would select the type of monitoring, regular or additional, and if you chose additional, you would complete the text box in number 5. Questions 6 through 10 document the agency's compliance with the program. Number 6 asks if they were compliant. Number 7, if deficiencies were identified. Number 8, if an IIP was issued. Number 9, listing the IIP numbers, which we'll talk about more in a little bit. Number 10, if no IIP was issued, you would need to document why. And number 16, you'd have to scroll all the way to the bottom and attach the associated monitoring documents. So let's take a look at a few examples of monitoring that occurred by PTN. Once again, document the date of the on-site monitoring visit, who conducted the monitoring. In this example, it's the PTC and the PTN Drug and Alcohol Program Manager. From the list of names populated in the drop-down menu for number 3, in this example, we've chosen Mr. Richard Neal as the PTC. For Project Manager, I chose my name, Becky Ligon. Number 4, select the type of monitoring conducted. Additional monitoring. The reason why is PTN contracted out the drug and alcohol program, and any monitoring for subrecipients would be conducted by the vendor on a 3-year rotation basis. Any monitoring outside the 3-year rotation would be considered additional monitoring, and therefore you would choose this radio button. Now you would need to document why additional monitoring was needed. An example, but not limited to, could be that the PTN Drug and Alcohol Program Manager felt that the agency needed to provide additional information on their random testing program. That's just one example. Now we're going to look at if the agency was compliant or not. Example number 1, the agency is compliant, there were no deficiencies identified, and an IEP was not issued. So is the agency compliant? Yes. Were deficiencies findings identified? No. If deficiencies were identified by the PTC, PTN Drug and Alcohol Program Manager, was an improvement action plan issued? NA. There's a reason why we choose NA. So if the agency was compliant, deficiencies were not identified, was an improvement action plan issued? NA. In the second example, the agency is not compliant. There were deficiencies and an IAP was issued. So, is the agency compliant? No. Were deficiencies findings identified? Yes. If deficiencies were identified by the PTC, PTN Drug and Alcohol Program Manager, was an improvement action plan issued? Yes. Number 9, provide the IEP numbers. Please note, to get the information to populate the listing in number 9, you need to have issued the IEP and eGrants first. The reason is that issuing an IEP and eGrants, the IEP has its own unique number, which will need to be listed on number 9. Let's look at another example. The agency is not compliant. Deficiencies are identified, but no IEP was issued. So is the agency compliant? No. Were deficiencies findings identified? Yes. If deficiencies were identified by the PTC, PTN Drug and Alcohol Program Manager, was an IEP issued? No. Therefore, number 9 would be left blank because there was not an IEP issued. Number 10, you would need to document why an IEP was not issued. Now, whether you're talking about an IEP that was issued or not, either way, you would need to scroll all the way down to the very bottom to number 16 and attach all the monitoring documents. In the text field provided, document the listing, the name of the agency, and the document used for monitoring. Choose the file from your computer that you have saved and upload it. And once you do so, it will be populated on the line item. And then it's time to save. So you scroll up to the top and hit the Save button. Now you need to change the status. Hover your mouse over the Status Changes web link. This will bring up a pop-up box. You would choose Apply Status to move the current status from NPTN Review to Complete. Once you've applied the status and the document is in complete status, you're finished. Now we're going to look at an example if the vendor conducted the monitoring. Now, if the vendor conducted the monitoring the PTN Drug and Alcohol Program Manager is going to be the one who's updating the monitoring form in eGrants. You're going to document the date of the monitoring visit, who conducted the monitoring, the vendor. Yep, number 3. And for number 4, document that it was regular monitoring. Regular monitoring reflects that the subrecipient was monitored within the 3-year rotation basis. Now you're going to skip all the way down to number 11 and document if the vendor had findings and there were corrective actions identified. In this example, the radio button would be marked yes. For number 12, there's information you need to populate for program areas, number of findings per program, number of key findings per program. You're going to need to reference the subrecipient's initial report, which is provided by the vendor, in a separate document and stored on the T drive. Using the information from the table in the findings overview chart, you're going to add a check mark for each program area in which there was a finding. For example, there was a finding for the drug and alcohol policy. There were a total of 8 findings and 1 key area finding. So you would mark the checkbox for policy. Number of findings per program would come from the total number of findings column on the initial report, and you would put the number 8 here. Number of key findings per program will be documented in the last column on the table of the findings overview chart in the initial report. So we put a number 1 here, and we continue until we completed number 12. For number 13, percentage of overall accuracy. This is also documented in the initial report in the findings overview chart. You would copy the percentage documented in the table and place it here. There's a lot going on with number 14, 15, and 16. For the corrective action, the space provided is not enough to document the lengthy information provided by the vendor. Therefore, you need to write document C attached initial report. You're going to write C attached initial report as a reference to the document saved on the T drive. Looking at the executive summary, which is also part of the documents submitted by the vendor, which reflects the status and outcome of the monitoring of the subrecipient, you're going to refer to the corrective action response date, the initial date in which the subrecipient has to complete the corrective actions, and put that date here. In this example, it would be November the 4th, 2019. The actual date of completion is the date documented on the closeout letter, which is issued to the subrecipient by the vendor at the end of the process when all corrective actions are complete. eGrants will calculate the number of days between the target date of completion and the actual date of completion. If a subrecipient did not meet the original initial corrective action response date, and they were provided a supplemental date, meaning they had more days now to complete the corrective actions, that information would be provided in question 15. It's important to note, make sure you keep the initial date, target date of completion, and do not change it. If a subrecipient was provided a date further in time, such as February 2020, you would document that in the question text box for number 15. You would retain the original target date of completion. For number 16, the executive summary, the initial report, and the closeout letter will be bundled together in one PDF and saved on your computer on the T drive. Once all the documents are bundled together into one large document, they will be uploaded in number 16. For the text fields for number 16, document the agency name, executive summary, the initial report, and the closeout letter. Choose a file from your computer and upload the document. Last of all, you're going to need to make sure that you save your work by clicking on the Save button. And now it's time to change the status. You're going to change the status from Administrative Requirements in PT and Review and click on the Apply status. This changes it from in PT and Review to Complete. This training has been provided into two parts. The first part, we looked at how to create the monitoring form. And the second part, how to complete the monitoring form. My name is Becky Ligon. Thank you for participating in this training.